All right, let's talk about something that could seriously slash your AI costs and even boost performance. We're going to dive into the data format you use to talk to your large language models and why it matters a lot. You really have to ask yourself this, especially if you're working with LLMs a lot. Every time you send information to a model, you're paying what you could call a token tax. The more words, the more characters, the more tokens you use, well, the higher your bill and the slower the response. It's that simple. Now, LLMs are amazing. They're super flexible, right? You can throw plain text at them, Markdown, XML, and of course, JSON. But here's the thing. Just because they can understand all of those doesn't mean you should use them all. The format you choose has some very real consequences for your wallet and your wait times. And it really does all come down to this. Every single token counts. We're talking every bracket, every comma, every letter. It's a direct trade-off. More tokens means it costs you more money, and it takes longer to get a response. And that becomes a massive headache when you're trying to scale an application. So that brings us to the reigning champion of structured data, JSON. I mean, if you're pulling data from an API or a database and feeding it to an LLM, chances are you're using JSON. It's just the default. It's what we all know and use. And hey, for good reason. It's easy for us humans to read, it's easy for machines to parse, and it's basically been the backbone of how the internet talks for years. It's clear, it's consistent, but the real question is it the most efficient way to talk to an LLM? And this right here is its big weak spot in the world of AI. All those things that make it great for us, the readable keys, the curly braces, they also make it incredibly wordy. You end up repeating the same keys like name or category over and over and over again. And with every single entry, you're just bloating your token count. So this brings us to the challenger in our story, a new format called toon, which actually stands for Token-Oriented Object Notation. And as the name implies, it was designed from the ground up to solve this exact problem. So the whole idea is to pack all the same punch, all the same information as JSON, but in a much, much tighter, more token-friendly package. I think this analogy just nails it. A letter versus a telegram. One is detailed and easy to read. The other is all about efficiency. And for a developer, being a more efficient alternative could mean real savings and faster apps, which is a pretty exciting idea. Okay, enough talk. Let's actually put these two head to head. Let's see what this efficiency really looks like when the rubber meets the road. So take a look. On the left, you've got your standard JSON. See how for each animal, we repeat the keys, name, category, diet. Now look over to the right at toon. The keys are defined only one time, right at the top, and the rest, it's just the raw data, separated by commas. I mean, you can see the difference in how compact it is right away. And this chart just puts hard numbers to what we just saw. For the exact same data about animals, the JSON version took 172 tokens. JSToon, on the other hand, needed only 71. That is a huge drop. We're not talking about shaving off a few percent here. This is a massive difference. Yeah, a 59% reduction just by changing the format of the data. Now stop and think for a second about what that could mean for your costs, for your app's response times, especially when you're processing thousands or even millions of these requests. And apparently, this wasn't just a lucky example. The folks behind Toon claim you can see an average token reduction of around 40%. But here's the really interesting part. They also claim it can lead to higher accuracy. The thinking is that by giving the model a cleaner, less cluttered input, you're improving the signal-to-noise ratio. The model can then focus on the actual information, which might lead to better results. So this all sounds great, but it brings up the big question, right? Should you actually switch? Let's walk through a really simple way to figure that out. It's honestly a pretty straightforward decision. The number one question to ask is your data already structured? If you're just writing normal prompts in plain English, then, this doesn't really apply. But if you're feeding the model structured data from a database or an API, then yeah, Toon is absolutely something you should be looking at. This table really breaks it down. Look at that middle row. For structured data input, Toon is a prime candidate to test out for savings. But, and this is important, for the model's output, like when you're using function calling, JSON is still the king. The models are literally trained to generate JSON, so you want to stick with that for now. Okay, and just a few final, really important details to keep in mind. First, remember, Toon is for inputs only. Second, the conversion process is actually pretty easy. There's a Python library for it, so it's not a huge project to implement. And finally, while it should work with most models, you should always test it with your specific setup to make sure you're getting the savings and the accuracy you expect. It's a pretty wild thought, isn't it? We spend all this time and energy on complex prompt engineering and fine tuning models, but what if one of the biggest and easiest wins is hiding in plain sight, just in the format of the data we're sending? It's definitely a compelling reason to maybe rethink our defaults and see if there's a more efficient way to get things done.